Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com. We're back with 2 weeks worth of new comic book reviews. We took a little break last week, partially because of the holidays, and really just a chance to kind of be with family and friends and just take a little bit of break. Because doing this every week is not an easy task. I have to read them, hopefully ahead of time, as best I can. Thanks Ryan for all the help with that at my local comic shop, Pulp Fiction Comics in Long Beach. And then of course, recording it, then editing it and putting it all together. So it looks actually halfway decent. So it's a lot of work. So taking a little bit of a break is a good thing. Now going forward, so things are going to change a little bit. Probably, I've been trying to get them, the videos done and put on YouTube on Thursdays. I don't think that's going to I think we're going to go back to more of the Friday being on Friday. I will see how it kind of works out. I'm starting a new gig next week. So we'll kind of see where everything's going to land. But I'm still going to do the reviews. It's just a matter of when the video ends up getting posted. But anyway, so the last 2 weeks have been actually pretty light. So it kind of actually worked out doing 2 weeks worth of reviews at one time, because this week was exceptionally light and then last week was a little lighter. So we got a lot of books. This would be like kind of a huge week, but really it's just two kind of small weeks. So we'll try to go as quickly as we possibly can through them, and we'll see. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get through them pretty quick. First up is Dead Boy Detectives #1, written by Pornsak Pinchot, with art by Jeff Stokely. So this is part of the Sandman universe books, and so what it is Charles and Edwin, which appeared in Sandman, and then they had a spin-off book with Vertigo. So what it is they're basically they're two dead ghosts, and they're detectives. So what it is, they're in LA, and there's this Thai American girl missing, and so so what it is some people can see them, like kids can see them and things like that. And so what it is they're asked, hey, this girl's missing, can you help find her? And then they kind of get caught up in this sort of ancient Thai ghost sort of thing that's going on in LA. And so that's really the basic premise. That's the setup here. What's interesting is Thessaly, the witch from Sandman, she's been captured, so we don't quite know what's going on with that. But the good thing is, if you haven't ever read Dead Boy Detectives, I will give Pinchot props. Is he gives you enough to, like, this is who they are, this is what they do, and he gives you enough, but he really just kind of gives you that little bit so you can hit the ground running. And I really enjoyed this first issue. I was a really big fan of his Asian detective book from Image that came out last couple years, and he's really a good writer, and I think he was a really good choice for this. And I really enjoyed Stokely's artwork. It's really nice. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Teddy Christensen, a little bit, but definitely Stokely, has his own style. And it's really nice, and it really fits the story really well. So I definitely really like this book a lot, and definitely recommend it this week. Next up, we have Timeless #1, written by Jed McKay with artwork by Greg Land, Jay Liston, Patch Zurcher, and Salvador LaRocca. So what this is going to be another Marvel event this year. And so what this story is, it's Kang the Conqueror. He's looking for the missing moment, and he runs into this version of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. And so he's just trying to find this missing moment. It's hidden from him. Why? We don't know. But basically what this is, it's a setup for an event. So the question comes down to if it's something, there was a previous Timeless event. And so if that's something you like, then you're going to like this. I think the problem I kind of have with these setups is that it's a setup, but then, it's going to be an event that goes through different books, and the whole thing is to get you to buy more books from the publisher, whether it's Marvel, DC, whoever. And not that the story was bad or anything. It was okay. I mean, the art was nice and everything, but really it's just like, once again, it's another event, and it really, I'm sure they'll say, oh, it's going to change things. No, it's not going to change. It's not going to change jack crap. And, so that's really, it's going to be for the more hardcore, who loves events. But otherwise, I'd say, it wasn't bad. It was just kind of like, skip it. Next up, we have Action Comics 1050, written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, Tom Taylor, and Joshua Williamson, with artwork by Mike Perkins, Clayton Henry, and Nick Dragata. So, Superman Kal-El is back on Earth after he's been off on the war planet, seems like forever at this point. And so this issue is supposed to be kind of a fresh start and kind of kick off a new wave. Now, the one thing that was kind of interesting, Bendis did introduce a storyline in his run where Superman revealed his identity to the world. So everybody in the world knows Clark Kent. So what this issue does is Luthor finds a way to make everybody forget that Clark is his identity. So that's kind of the only thing I would say that really changes, a little bit in Superman. But really what I kind of had a problem with, it wasn't that this issue was bad, but this is supposed to be a jumping on point for new readers and new storylines and stuff. And I just didn't really find it particularly interesting in that respect. I mean, it wasn't like it was bad or anything. I mean, the story was fine and everything. But it's literally just Superman kind of battling Lex Luthor. And I've read that story a million times, and there was really nothing in this particular issue that brought anything new to the party. And once again, if somebody's saying, hey, maybe I'll pick this up because this is a new beginning, there really wasn't anything particularly compelling or new in this. And that was kind of the problem. It's like, it's not like you need to, reinvent Superman or anything, but just give me a reason to want to read it. And unfortunately, this doesn't do it. Not bad, just not particularly anything I haven't read before. The art by Perkins, Henry, and Dragata, the book looks really nice and everything. It's just not particularly compelling. It didn't get me excited to read a new, the Superman book. So we'll see where it all susses out, because there's going to be a couple new series that's kind of spin out of this particular story. Next up, we have Murderworld Spider-Man #1, written by Jim Zub and Ray Fox, with artwork by Farid Kamari. So what Marvel's been doing is, instead of doing miniseries, they do these one-shots that are kind of the same story, but they're separate, but they're all connected. So what Murderworld is, it's really simple. It's people go to basically, it's the Hunger Games, and if you win a bunch of money. And so that's the point. And so what it is, this story follows this girl who goes in there, and once again, everybody has a reason for being there. And so while they're trying to get from point A to point B, they get attacked by different Spider-Men, but they're robots and everything. And that's really it. It's the Hunger Games. And once again, it was a nice issue and everything. The story was nice and everything. The art was good. But, once again, it's just a Hunger Games. So that's all that really is. And so I guess there was previously like a Murderworld Wolverine. I guess there's going to be Murderworld whatever. And like I said, they're nice and everything. It's just that, that was it. It was just nice. Okay story, nice art. That's all it was. Next up, we have Detective Comics 1067, written by Ram V, with artwork by Ivan Reyes. So what Ram is doing with this, he's definitely going the noir detective route. So as we saw last issue, Batman got trapped by Mr. Freeze. He got frozen. And this issue, Mr. Freeze is actually helping him out. So it's like, So it kind of has to do with the Orgham's family coming into Gotham, kind of taking over Gotham, because now Bruce Wayne is I guess just a maybe a millionaire, not a multi-millionaire. And so yeah, there's still kind of all all this story that's been going on since Ram V took over the book a few months back. So this is a continuing storyline, but I really enjoy this book. I like the fact that Batman is a detective, but the noir aspect that Ram V is doing with the story is really, really good. I really enjoy this book. This also had the third part of the backup for the Two-Face story, which was nice and everything. They're nice backups, and it doesn't have anything to do with the main story. It's just not. It's kind of a nice little 3-part story. So once again, I'm really digging what Ram V is doing with Detective, and Ivan Reyes. He's really good artist, and he's really bringing a lot. There's some really just great visuals that he's really bringing to this book. So I'm really enjoying it, and it's still well worth reading. Next up, we have Moseley. Moseley #1, written by Rob Gilroy, with artwork by Sam Lotfi. So what this is Moseley, kind of say present day, because this takes place in the future 21st century. So what it is he goes on, it's kind of like he's on the secret. He goes to this base. He goes to, teaches this robot how to be human, basically like teaching machines to become human in a way, and so then it cuts to head where Moseley's now a janitor at a school, and robots have kind of, not so much they've taken over the world, it's not like that, but the humans have basically let the robots run stuff. So it's kind of like a catch-22 of beware of technology. That's the basic premise of the story. And so what it is Moseley's like going home, and he gets attacked by this robot kid, because kids are now half robots and stuff. So they're beating him up and everything. And then he basically, the I guess you could say gods or whatever kind of favor him, and they give him they give him the holy hammer, so he becomes like a superhero, and he has to take down the machines to save humanity. That's a basic premise. There's a lot of setup here. I liked it. Once again, I wouldn't say that it will overwhelm me, because I've read this story a million times. I don't know that Gilroy brought a lot of new to this basic story, but I think it's got an interesting premise. I think the next couple of issues are going to be the key to see where Gilroy's going to take this story. I did Lotfi's artwork's nice. It does a job really well. I wasn't entirely sold on it, but it was something that does show some promise there. So we'll kind of see where it goes from there. Next up, we have Scarlet Witch #1, written by Steve Orlando, with artwork by Sarah Pichelli. So this is just a standalone, and what it is Scarlet Witch runs this kind of bookstore, and people who come in that what it is there's a door in the back, and for people that need something, specifically probably magic help, they come through the door to her bookstore, and so then she goes helps. And so what it is this lady comes in, and her town has been taken over by a villain, and he's basically brainwashed everybody. And so she goes and she defeats it, and then her brother Pedro, Quicksilver, helps her out and stuff. Really, the problem is, it wasn't that this book was bad, it was just really average. After I read it, I'm like, okay, that's nice. There really wasn't anything compelling about the story. It's just like, a basic, kind of superhero-ish book. And it just really was incredibly okay. Pichelli's artwork's nice and everything. She did the artwork for that J.J. Abrams Spider-Man book. I don't even know if that thing finished, but it was so long that it took to come out. But anyways, it's really just an okay book. Unless you're a really big Scarlet Witch fan, this is just it was pretty mediocre stuff, folks. Next up, we have Batman #131, written by Chip Zdarsky, with pencils by Mike Hawthorne, and inks by Andrea Di Benedetto. And then there's a Tim Drake backup written by Zdarsky with artwork by Miguel Mendocilla. So this is the first part post failsafe. So what it is, a bit of a spoiler if you haven't been reading it. So it appeared that last issue failsafe, didn't kill Batman. We saw that last issue, but now we find out that basically he's been sent to an alternate universe. He's in this alternate universe where there is no Batman. So it's like Gotham, and it has like, Catwoman and all these other, Batman characters, but there's no Batman. So Bruce is now there, so he's becoming the Batman of this universe. So that's the setup for this second story arc that for Zdarsky's run on the book. It's interesting. Once again, last issue was kind of like, oh crap, we knew he didn't kill him, but he's like laying half dead in like an alleyway, and it's like, okay, what's going on here? So now we know what's going on. And what's interesting about the Tim Drake backup is that it does somewhat tie into the main story where, Tim is trying to find Bruce because he's missing. They don't know if he's dead or whatever. So Tim is actually, doing the detective work of trying to find Bruce. So that was kind of interesting how the backup story, tied in. I mean, it was a story by itself. It's a side story of the main story. I guess that's the best way to describe it, but it tied in nicely and everything. I'm digging what Zdarsky's doing. I mean, the first story arc was pretty much, Batman superheroes type stuff. So this really changed the ball game. So it'll be interesting to see where this second story arc goes. Next up, we have Doctor Strange Fall Sunrise, number 2, written and drawn by Tradd Moore, with guest partial artist Jensen Eckwall. He does part of it. Tradd does most of the artwork. There's kind of this where they're telling part of the story. I really like the first issue, but I'll be really honest. This second issue was really freaking weird. Honestly, I think the best thing, I love Tradd stuff, and he really is kind of out there, both story and visual, because this is based on like poems. I think this is going to be a book that's really going to work sitting down and reading it in one setting. Because there's a lot of just bizarre stuff going on, and the story is pretty dense. So it's kind of one of those things that, having that month gap did not help the story in that sense. I still like the book and everything. I think it's just going to work so much better reading in a one shot. Once again, the really amazing thing with Tradd is his artwork. It's absolutely stunning. It's gorgeous artwork. And I really like Eckwall's artwork. Like I said, he just does like a few panels in there, but it was actually a really smart, really an interesting idea art-wise to do that for that part of the story. Like I said, I really like this book and I do recommend it. I just think it's going to be like, wait till it's finished and pick up the trade when it comes out. Next up, we have Spies Superb, number 1, written and drawn by Matt Kindt. So what this is the government has the super spy. And so what it is the super spy ends up, he's on a mission. He ends up, he has like a bomb belt and he blows himself up. And so what it is there's this misconception that like he's not, that the super spy is more of a myth. So the government keeps it going. So they actually had other great spies kind of take the job. But then what they learned was to kind of keep the story of the super spy alive. Think of him as like the James Bond. Like he's the James Bond. And so what they now do is they have civilians do certain things like, hey, there's this phone that's got this information on it that needs to get from point A to point B. So they basically get these civilians. It's not really clear of like, whether they give them money or what. Anyways, they get them to like, he'll put, like this guy, he's going to go, he's writing his epic book, and it's, probably 10,000 pages. And of course it's sci-fi on the side. And so he goes to the store to pick up his phone that was broken or, had been attacked. And so he's supposed to take it, and he'll take it to like another person or an agent will pick it up from him. So he goes back to his apartment, and they're like the other side, like the bad guys or the bad spies, are at his house, and he's like, he doesn't know, like, once again, they think he's like the super spy, and he's not. And so he's kind of clumsy. So what it is, he ends up inadvertently killing all the guys. And it's just like, it's really fascinating. I mean, I love Matt Kent. I love his stories. This is really great. It's a great spy story with a neat little twist to it. And I really, really enjoyed that. That's what I really like. And I'm a fan of his artwork. I like his artwork. I think it fit really well. I see why he did the artwork instead of working with an artist. Him and Lemire, very similar in the sense of sometimes they feel like, hey, this story fits this particular artist, or I feel like I think this fits me doing it as the artist. But anyways, either way, Spy Supreme was a great book. It was one of my favorite books that came out this week. I really, really recommend it. I really dug it. I liked the whole spy thing. I liked kind of the goofy thing that happened. It's really good. Definitely check it out. Next up, we have Wonder Woman Historia, number 3, written by Kelly Sue DeConnick, with artwork by Nicholas Scott. So this is the final issue of the story. So basically, this is the prehistory of how the Amazons came to be. And that's really what the story has been. And this is the final, basically this is the final thing that leads up to the Amazons going to Theraschema. And so what really it has been, it's kind of the men versus women, or Zeus versus the other female gods. And so that's really what it is. And in a way, the Amazons kind of somewhat lose, but they win. And then, of course, the last part, and this is not a spoiler, is the, how Hippolyta creates Diana. But it's really been fascinating. I actually have really enjoyed the fact that each issue had a different artist. Because each one is like kind of a different time period. The first issue was Phil Jimenez. The second one was Gene Ha. And then, of course, Nicholas Scott did this one. And each brings their own flavor to the story. And it was, the way that you could tell that DeConnick wrote this is it was like, okay, I'm writing this for Phil, I'm writing this for Gene, I'm writing this for Nicola. And that is what really has excited me about this book. It's absolutely amazing. It's wonderful. If you've missed any of the issues, I know there's going to be a hardcover collection of this coming out probably fairly soon. It's definitely I know the first issue won a bunch of Eisner Awards, and very deservingly, and the second and third in this third issue is just absolutely fantastic. I'm a really big fan of Nicola Scott's artwork, and she really just she brings her super A game to this book, and it's really amazing and wonderful. I really, like I said, I can't recommend this one highly enough. Kelly Sue DeConnick just came up with a great story, and kind of put a lot of that mythology that had been in Wonder Woman over the years into one kind of full story that just puts everything together, and she kind of fills in a lot of blanks. And I really, like I said, it's absolutely amazing, absolutely wonderful stuff. Next up, we have Fantastic Four number 3, written by Ryan North, with artwork by Iban Coletto. Sorry. So the first issue had to do with Ben Grimm. The second it had Sue and Reed. This one is Johnny Storm. And so what it is something has happened in New York. We still don't know. It's promised that next issue we will find out. But so what it is they're not, the other Ben and Sue and Reed have left New York, where Johnny has stayed in New York. So what it is he's working at just like some retail place. And but he puts himself in disguise. He colors his hair and everything, but he still kind of does Human Torch stuff, even though it's illegal to do superheroes in New York. So that's really, once again, these have all been little standalone stories, and this one's a little more fun and goofy because it's Johnny, and so I've really liked how North has done these individual stories and, really set up, and there's been this, he's been laying the groundwork for what has, something has happened in New York, something bad happened. And it's really been an interesting book. I'm really, like I said, each issue has been great. This issue was a little different because it was a little more fun and goofy, but that was good because it fits Johnny's character. So I like the fact that, North did something that was a little different than the last couple of issues. So, Bond's artwork is just absolutely amazing. It's just a really good looking book. This is honestly some of the best Fantastic Four stories I've read in a long time. It's really been a long time. So this is definitely worth checking out. I really love this book a lot. Next up we have Kaya number 3, written and drawn by Wes Craig. So last issue they fought like this giant spider. So they come back. Kaya's been injured. And Jin attempts to use his magic to help heal her. Now, whether he helps or not, we're not sure. But we do see that obviously something does happen. Like he is able to conjure something. Now, what that is and what that will be down the road, we don't know. We also find out that Seth admits of his love for Kaya. That he really that he wanted to like marry her, but things happened in the kingdom and he had to marry another girl and stuff. And, so there's that, there was a lot of great stuff that really happened in this issue. And I'm really liking what Craig is doing with this book. It's a really big adventure, but it's also like very character driven. And, in a lot of ways, it kind of reminds me of Bone in that sense of where there's a huge story, but it's really focused on these characters. And that's what is, driving this big story. So, it's really interesting, and I love it. I love his art. Once again, it's a great all ages book. I like how the story's unfolding each issue. There's more mystery. It's a really good book. This is really, really wonderful book and definitely worth checking out. Next up, we have Nice House on the Lake, number 12, written by James Tynan IV with artwork by Alvarado Martinez Bueno. Now, so just a little, preface, this is the final issue of this story arc. What we have now learned is that apparently there's going to be more of this story, which to me is kind of a catch-22 because we've had 12 issues and I've really enjoyed the story, but they're somewhat a finale to this, I guess, first arc of the story. With Walter, now they know he's like some alien and something, and that he's just there's the bigger alien, he has like bosses above him, aliens. I really don't want to say much about the story because, really I don't want to give anything away. I've really enjoyed this. I just don't know that I'm necessarily needing like another 12 issues. I don't know. We'll see. I've really enjoyed this book. I like the story. I like the characters. It's been really fascinating. I think, and Martinez Bueno's artwork. I mean, this is a gorgeous book. This is absolutely gorgeous. I just, at this point, the question kind of comes down to how much story is there? I mean, he's had 12 issues, and once again, I've enjoyed the story, but where are you going to take it from here? There is definitely more story to tell. I get that. But the question is, could he have told this in 12 issues? I don't know. We'll have to see. But once again, I've enjoyed it. I know there's a trade of the first 6 issues. There'll be a trade of the second 6 issues. So we'll kind of see. Like I said, I don't want to say I'm disappointed. I'm not sure. That's the best way to put it. But overall, I have enjoyed it for at least these first 12 issues. So we'll kind of see where it goes from there. Next up, we have Children of the Black Sun, number 1, written by Dario Siccio. Sorry if I mispronounced that. And with artwork by Letizia Condescendi. So what this is there have been 2 times that there has been a blackout of the sun, and what happens when the blackout of the sun, people go crazy, people start killing each other, they commit suicide, it gets really crazy, and this has happened twice. And so, but there have been children that have been born on these when the black sun has been out, and what we kind of learn in this first issue that they're different. I don't want to say that they necessarily have powers. They might, but they're different. And so the one thing that I can kind of describe is it's kind of like Village of the Damned, where, you know, all the kids like had blonde hair and everything. So these kids have like a certain look, like they have red eyes and stuff like that. So there's definitely shades of that going on. I liked it. It's definitely this issue. First issue is a setup. It's pure exposition. I really did. I like the artwork, and I like how, when it goes back to like tell the story about the Black Sun, it looks like almost kids' drawings. And I actually thought that was a really neat idea. Mostly because what it is it starts off this kid's giving like a book report, and he's telling the story of the Black Sun. So it's his artwork that you're seeing the pictures of. But it was kind of a neat. I think it worked well in the story. But like I said, it's definitely, you know, full on exposition. This first issue, there's a nice twist at the end. It's I will say this book intrigued me enough to like definitely give it a second, you know, give this second issue a spin. Kinesia's artwork, the artwork's actually really nice. The story's good. We'll just kind of see where it goes. But I did like this, and I think if you're looking for something different, it's a light week, so it might be worth checking out for you. Next up, we have The Riddler Year 1, number 2, written by Paul Dano, with artwork by Steven Subic. So what it is Edward Nygma has, you know, he's discovered like this money that's kind of missing from certain accounts at his firm, and he's ultimately discovered that there's something kind of shady going on with his firm, that they're kind of like, you know, I don't think they're necessarily laundering money, but they're monkeying the books. And so, you know, he's starting to discover things, but he's also kind of starting, you know, it's like he's running into like the mob and everything. So you have him with his past and the Wayne Foundation, all that kind of stuff. And, you know, you kind of see Batman in the background, where he, like, you know, he likes Batman as a hero, but then he's kind of like a little bit not all together upstairs. So it's really interesting. I like I said, I've been really surprised. Paul Dano's done a really good job on the story. It's really intriguing. He's really kind of embellished on from the Batman film, you know, the character. And Subic's artwork, it's a really good looking book. It really is a really interesting book. I'm really digging it. And it's very character driven, and I really like that. It's kind of like really deep and everything, and I'm enjoying it. And once again, the artwork's really great. So I still think it's worth checking out. Next up, we have Secret Invasion number 3, written by Ryan North, with artwork by Francisco Mobley. So now we know that there are Skrulls, and they're able to kind of disguise themselves. The previous thing that Reed Richard invented to discover them is now not working. So she goes to Tony Stark to find out, and we find out that Tony has actually kind of has his band of Skrulls that are like, you know, kind of doing the smaller Iron Man stuff, like saving cats from trees, you know, finding, you know, working with low level crime and stuff. So that is kind of like, it's interesting because it's like, well, now Skrulls are kind of like hidden, and there's like something going on, and yet Tony's like, hey, I'm just working with some of them. So that really throws kind of a whole twist into the whole storyline. I have to say, I've been really excited, but once again, I'm a big fan of Ryan North, and he's got some really good twists with this story, and Mobley's artwork's nice. This was kind of a different issue than the last couple issues, because it just centers on, you know, her going to Tony Stark. But I did like it. It had a kind of a different tone, not in a bad way. It's kind of a different tone for the story, but I think it definitely pivots it quite nicely. So I have to admit, I'm pleasantly surprised by this. And finally, this week we have Tales from Earth 6, a celebration of Stan Lee, number 1. So there's multiple stories, so I'll go through the list. So we have the Batman story by Michael Uslan, with artwork by Lee Weeks. Superman by Mark Waid and artwork by Kevin Maguire. Wonder Woman written by Stephanie Williams with artwork by Belen Ortega. The Flash, written by Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad with artwork by Pablo M. Collar. Green Lantern, written by Kenny Porter with artwork by Carl Mostrat. Shazam, written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing with artwork by Juan Fiera. Aquaman, written by Zach Thompson with artwork by Hayden Sherman. Catwoman, written by Megan Fitzmartin with artwork by Anthony Marquez. And Sandman, written by Steve Orlando with artwork by Max Dunbar. And finally, JLA, written and drawn by Jerry Ordway. So what it was is about 20 years ago, Stan Lee decided that he wanted to write some DC comics because he had never written DC before. And so what it is Michael Urslin, who's the producer on the Batman films, he got together with him and they got writers and artists. And so what it was is it was called Stan Lee's Just Imagine. So what it was what Stan Lee, if he had created Superman, what would his version of that story be? And same with like Batman, Sandman, and all these characters. So they're just different versions of those characters. So that's really what it is. And once again, this is like one of those like $10 books, and it's got 10 stories. So we need at least a 70% ratio of good to not so good. I will say there wasn't anything. None of these stories I didn't like. The only downside is they're all kind of short. So that's kind of a catch-22 for some of them. The Batman one was kind of, pretty much a basic Batman story. He goes out, there's like the version of the Joker, and he dresses up like a bat. So all these are like kind of visually different too. The Superman was probably the oddest because it really, in a lot of ways, reminded me of like The Boys, where not that Superman's a killer or anything, but Superman just is not like the goody two-shoes sort of Superman. It was really interesting. And then, of course, having Kevin Maguire do the artwork was a really big win. The Wonder Woman was, it was a pretty basic story. The story was decent and everything. It was just, kind of her having the balance between her secret identity and being Wonder Woman. That's really was the basis of the story. The artwork was nice. But once again, like I said, a lot of these are going to be pretty basic stories. The Flash was kind of interesting. It was interesting because what it was is, this version, her parents, both of her parents die, but she goes back in time to try to stop her dad from getting killed. And so that's what, it's kind of like you can't change time, but you can understand things that you can learn certain things from going back in time. And she learns something from her father. And it's actually, once again, at first I wasn't really overwhelmed with the story, but the ending just made it all worthwhile. So Cloonan and Conrad did a really good job on that. Collar's artwork was a little weird, but it kind of fit the story. The Green Lantern was kind of interesting. It was kind of like how instead of drawing power from the green battery, he kind of draws from people, not like, it's more of like, because he's getting beat up and defeated by this villain that goes around and destroys planets by destroying the trees and everything. And so he calls on, basically society to give him strength to beat him. And that's what that was. The Shazam one's kind of interesting because it's more of he turns into like this monster. That one was always kind of weird, but it kind of works. And the story, the story was interesting. Fiera's artwork was nice. Aquaman's probably one of the most interesting one because he's kind of like a water guy. It's quite fascinating in that respect. Once again, a basic story. I really like Hayden Sherman's artwork. He did a really nice job on this. The Catwoman's interesting because it's basically Catwoman and Black Canary, but they're kind of switched, in a way. And that one was an interesting story. I like that story. Marquez's artwork was really nice. Sandman was always kind of interesting because it was more somewhat Neil Gaiman Sandman in a way, because it's really about him, the dreaming, instead of like, say, the Golden Age Sandman, where he just kind of puts people to sleep with the gun. It was interesting. Once again, there's only so much you can kind of do in the short amount of time. Probably one of my favorites, and just because I love Jerry Ordway, was the JLA, where it's really what I loved about it. It was kind of, because he doesn't have a lot of time to really tell a story. So a lot of it's just like, more of a fun story. It was the one that was just like the funnest story to read. And of course, I love his artwork. It was really charming, and I loved it. It was fun. It was simple. So, once again, I would say overall, it gives you an idea of what those particular stories were, or those characters that Stan Lee, I don't want to say created. He really just like, this is my idea for Wonder Woman. This is my idea for Batman. Basically, that's what it was. He kind of co-wrote them, but it was really, he had just like, if you're going to do a version of Catwoman, what would your version be? And that's what he did. And so the reason that this book came out was because I believe it was last week was his 100th birthday. So it was kind of DC celebrating, Stanley's, contribution to comics. And I'm not going to go into the whole, like, him versus Kirby and Ditko and all that kind of stuff. But, the one thing that Stan Lee, I will definitely give him credit for, he was a cheerleader for comics. No matter what, in the end, he loved comics, and he wanted people to read comics. And then that level, I appreciate Stan Lee. Once again, these are just kind of weird, but if you'd never read them, this is kind of like, it's basically a 10 story sampler is what this is. So that's going to do it. We burned through these pretty good, mostly because there wasn't anything I spent too much time on. So sorry about that, but we had a lot of books to get through, 2 weeks worth of books. So, as always, public service announcement. I get all my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics, in Long Beach, California. Ryan Skinner runs a great store there. Annie, Eduardo, Wendy, and Derek. Sometimes I have to remember everybody's there, but anyways, it's a great store. They offer great pull service. That's why I get all my books, because I subscribe to them. And they offer 30% discount on trades of graphic novels, 20% on manga. It's a great store. Really great customers. That's the other thing. It's a really great community store, which was really, to me, is really what makes a really good comic shop. Good, well-run store with great customers. If you're in the LA area, there's Pulp Fiction Comics in Culver City. It's a separate store from the original owner, but Chris and her team run that. Once again, they offer the same discounts and everything, but once again, Long Beach is my store. If you're in the Long Beach area, definitely check it out. And also check out the Facebook group. They have it's a lot of fun. We always post a lot of fun stuff. But as always, please support your local comic shop. I know with the economy, trust me, it's tough all over. But make sure if you pre-order books, make sure you pick them up, because they have to pay for them in advance. So they need you to pick up your stuff. So don't let it get backed up and everything. But as always, support your local comic shop, because they really are the backbone of the industry. Beyond the publishers and the creative people that make the comics, they're super important. But really, it's the stores that get the comics to the readers. And as always, we end our show with be kind. Please be kind to each other. It's a new year. We're in 2023 now. So really, if I think you should have one new resolution for the year, it's just be kind. Be kind to each other. Kindness goes a long way. You don't have to do big things, just little things. And take care of yourselves. I know, the flu and COVID's kind of spiking, so stay healthy, take care of yourself, get vaccinated, mask up. If that helps, which I think it does. But just be safe out there and be kind. And that's going to do it this week. We'll be back next week. Not sure what day, but I'll be back. And as always, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please share. Comments are welcome. And just take care of yourselves. And we'll be back next week. This is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com signing off. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.